Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Pop-Tarts are a meal, right? S'mores are my favorite. It's like a fun little dessert. You pick up, you keep it with you. It's very contained. I don't heat them up, I eat them dry. I'll tell you where they're missing out. Remember Hot Pockets? Remember the breakfast Hot Pockets? So here's what you do. You make like a Hot Pocket Pop-Tart, but you eat it dry. You don't heat it up. Now you got like a bacon, egg, dry Pop-Tart. You grab and go. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com. First off, thank you to everyone who jumped in the AMA we did the other night on Sunday. If you want to participate, there's the Discord link somewhere here, and you can join Discord, and that's how you participate, or you can just keep watching. If you like to watch, you can just keep watching on YouTube. Today, we're going to start building the official V2 of our Intune tenant-to-tenant device migration, which we now call ZeroTouch Migration. Rolls off the tongue a little better. If you recall in the last post, we were talking about two separate paths, one for in-place migration, same hardware, new tenant, one for hardware refresh, new tenant, new PC. So let's start putting that together over the next few videos. We'll also keep the troubleshooting series going as well. What do you mean it's disgusting? Okay, so we almost have two pieces now. One is the Intune device migration, which we have the mechanics of that sorted. The rest of it is how we migrate the user data. Now, to do this effectively, so far we've been doing everything in one shot, right? But now things kind of come a little different, right? So instead of having one package that does everything, we're going to have a solution in which we have three parts. Part one is a script by itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be run in a package. That's our pre-migration. This is, let's say, approximately 10 days before going to migrate the device. This is a great way to collect info on the device, the user, the data that's going to be migrated, and give us time to make decisions and make sure that everything is in the kind of the right place before we migrate. And then these two, because they're green, these are in the actual migration package. So you have what the user executes to do the migration to the tenant. That'll work as before, and then once the device wakes up in tenant B, it'll work similarly, but it'll have different options to restore data based on what we've aggregated in pre-migration. So this is going to be our focus for today, the pre-migration tasks, and the pre-migration analysis and building that out. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder for this, because why not, right? New solution. So we're going to call this V2 ZeroTouch Migration. Okay, in here I want to add two folders. I want to add in place, and I want to add hardware refresh. So this will all depend on whether I'm keeping my device or going to get issued a new one. Remember, we talked about the SMB share. So those are all things that are going hardware refresh. But let's do in place first, right? Because this is the most similar to what we've already been working on. So in place, I have two more folders I want to do. So the first folder is going to be called pre-migrate. And the second folder is going to be called package, because this will be the Intune Win package, and this is just a script that can run itself, right? And ultimately this, whatever's in here, is what we'll wrap in the app. But this will kind of help us focus, right? So there's only going to be one thing at the moment in here, and this is going to be our pre-migrate script. So I'm going to create a new file called premigrate.ps1. And I am 100% sure I want to make that a PS1. Did that? Yeah, PowerShell source. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's open this up in Visual Studio. So how does this work? What do we have? So as usual, I'm going just going to comment out the pieces here, right? So we'll say this is the pre-migrate script for ZeroTouch Intune migration. Run at run on or about, we'll say T minus 10 days prior to migration. Oh, I do not want to install that update now. Not while I'm filming. Are you crazy? Get out of here. Run as system. Okay, cool. So a few things we're going to need. We still need our app registration. And we are going to need blob storage. Azure blob storage. And we can walk through setting that up. It's pretty straightforward. If you don't already have that, we'll need Azure blob storage. I'm going to throw a link below on how to get that set up. It's very simple in the tenant. If there's enough, everyone seems cool with it, but if there are enough questions, eventually I'll walk through that, but can't walk through everything. So first thing I'll do is make my error action preference to be equal silently continue, meaning do not complain. Okay, so I like my little areas here where I break things off into the different parts. I think that really just makes it easy for me to read. And if it makes it easy for me, hopefully it makes it easy for you. Okay, so this is going to be the first part, local files and logging. Like always, we set up basic logs for this stuff. Okay, let's copy that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to authenticate to the graph. Authenticate to MS Graph. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is something new. We're going to connect to blob storage. So we're going to connect to blob storage. Okay, then we are going to get current state info. Get current state info. So that's going to be our user data, the paths we want to migrate, the installed applications. And actually, we're going to add a piece for that. So get installed applications. Okay, and then we go and we do the data migration and backup method. Data migration and backup method. Okay, and then we construct JSON, not JSON, XML, sorry. They're similar, essentially. Construct XML and upload to blob. Okay, so those are our pieces right there. Let's start fleshing them out, and we'll kind of talk, like always, we're going to talk about everything in the process. So first thing we're going to do is create our local path, and that is C program data Intune migration. Some folks have asked me, hey, can we do program data Microsoft and Intune migration? I mean, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. It's just somewhere kind of out of sight of the end user. It's a place where things have to land, essentially. And of course, we'll go ahead and create that if it's not there. For those of you who've been testing this out, there's a good chance it is there on your machine. So that's why we always do this. Okay. Let's go ahead and we do not need an install detection. We don't need an Intune detection rule for this because it's going to be a PowerShell script, so we're not going to actually detect anything. So all we have to do here is start a transcript. Start transcripts. We're going to put that in the local path. Local path. We'll call this premigrate.log. Verbose, and we are good to go. And now we can start write host since we're logging. Write host starting Intune ZeroTouch pre-migration process. Okay, authenticating to the graph. This is going to be exactly as before. So I'm just going to pop in the same piece we used. Okay, so as you can see here, same rules apply. We're authenticating to the source tenant, the client ID, the secret. We're going to use the same permissions as before, and that'll come back as authenticated. Now, what's new here is connecting to blob storage. So in order to connect to blob storage, we have to do a few things first. So we have to first, let's make some room here. First thing we have to do is check for NuGet and install. NuGet is the package provider that has the module we need. So right host, checking for NuGet package provider, and then we'll define that as whether it's there or not. So get package provider name NuGet. Now what we can say is if not NuGet, so if it's not there, we can say NuGet not found, installing now. And then we can go ahead and we can do a try catch on that. Try. So our try will be install package provider name NuGet. We're gonna confirm. What's it doing? Confirm false and force. And then we can say right host NuGet installed. And to catch, in case there is a problem, we're just going to grab the error message, store that as message, and right host error installing NuGet, and then we'll just write the error. Okay, that's if there is no NuGet. Else, if there is, we'll just right host NuGet already installed. Okay, very, very easy. Next thing we have to do now we have NuGet is get the Azure AD blob storage module. So check for AZ storage module and install. So same thing here. We're gonna say pretty much we're gonna take the same approach. We're gonna say right host checking for AZ storage module, and we'll call that AZ storage, and that'll equal get installed module name az.storage. Okay, and then we can basically say if not AZ storage, right host AZ storage not found, installing now. And same thing here, we can put this in a try catch. Yep. Okay, so we will try to say install module. Come on. Install module name AZ storage force. Then we can import the module storage, and we'll just write that out. Right host AZ storage installed. Same thing, if we have an error, we're going to capture that error message equals, there we go, and we can say right host AZ error installing AZ storage, and then we'll just give it the message. Okay, and lastly, else we can just say if it's already installed, we'll just import it. So we'll say right host AZ storage already installed, and we'll just do a quick import on that. Import module AZ storage. Okay, And that takes care of that. Now we just have to connect to our blob storage. So connect to blob. Kind of like client ID and secret, you need your storage account name. So storage account name of your actual storage account. Okay, you need a key, which is like a secret storage account, same thing. Storage account key. Storage account key. And then we need context. And the context is actually creating the link up there. So it's new AZ storage context. Yep. Context. And for that, guess what pieces of information you need? You need the storage account name, storage account name, and the storage account key. Storage account key. Now the containers in blob storage are where the actual files go. So we want a generic container for now, and we want to just call that pre-migration data. And we'll kind of get into this a little bit on when we talk about structure of how that works. So right host, we can say connected to Azure blob storage account, and then we can just put the storage account name in there. Okay, and that connects us to the blob. The get current state info, a lot of this is going to be the same, but we've made some changes here. So what's been changed? The first thing we want to do is we're going to use a GUID, right? So if you notice that what we've done with the data migration for different scenarios is we kind of match everything up by the username, because we're going to have this XML file we can pull back in with device data. Now that we got the blob storage involved, it's going to be hard to correlate things, especially because our host name changes, our username may be slightly different. So we're going to just generate a GUID and store that, and that'll be our unique GUID. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Just call it new GUID. So let me open up PowerShell for a moment and just show you what that is. So new GUID just generates a unique, character here. And of course, because it's a table, if we do new, the reason we do this is to just get the GUID number out of it. So that's what this is actually giving us. It's giving us a unique, almost an immutable ID, which is going to be very helpful now that we're going to go back and forth with blob storage, or possibly even a new PC, because a new PC won't have the same host name. It won't know the username, but we can throw the GUID on it, right? Which is, that's going to be really helpful. Graph. Yeah, we can even abstract this up here. Let's do that actually. So once we're up in the graph area, we can graph endpoint. We can put this in https graph.microsoft.com/beta, and that'll be our, because that's our main endpoint, right? So what we can do down here, since we're going to be calling this a few different times, just kind of make life easier. So what we can do is we can say graph endpoint slash, okay, device management, Windows autopilot device identities, and we'll do a little filter, contains equals contains serial number. Perfect. Yeah, it's gonna save time later, especially as we start integrating more graph calls. Having that endpoint just ready to go here just saves typing, and the headers are how we authenticate. And then we get the Intune object, and we can do the same thing, right? Intune object equals invoke REST method method get URI is graph endpoint. Yep. And it's going to be device management, managed devices. And we can put the filter here again. Filter equals contains, same thing actually, serial number, and headers. Okay, so now we can just pipe out the objects we want. So autopilot ID equals autopilot object dot value dot ID. Okay, and we can write that out. Write host autopilot ID is autopilot ID. Okay, we do the same thing with the Intune ID. Intune ID equals Intune object dot value is ID, and then write host. Host is Intune ID is Intune ID. And finally, same thing with group tag. From the autopilot object is the autopilot object dot value dot group tag. Right host. Current autopilot group tag is group tag. Okay, looking at this, I'd like to put some checks in to basically look at these calls and see if they come back with anything. So what we can do is we can say if autopilot object is not equal to null, then what do? Well, we can grab the ID and get back here. We can also grab the group tag. Is not null. Else we can do a else right host no autopilot object found. Okay, and we can do the same thing here, right, with the Intune ID. If Intune object is not equal to null, we'll just move that right in there. We'll say else host no Intune object found. With our graph data there, we're gonna go grab the locations we want to migrate. So let's do user paths to be migrated. And a lot of folks have asked me, why we're doing all of the documents and desktop and pictures. So here's the deal. If you're using OneDrive, you can skip those, right? And this is malleable. So when I do locations here, this is literally an array for you to put whatever. So for example, a lot of folks only care about the app data. Yep. So app data local and app data roaming, right? And we can even get more specific. We can even get very specific, like folders for different apps, or if it's just Chrome or just something, but this seems to be a good way to grab the profile. Downloads is also something that is not included in the OneDrive known folder move. So if you're using OneDrive, you can leave that out and just leave it like that. I'll do that for now. And we could always use OneDrive to do the rest. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna add my. Never mind. I'm just gonna add desktop and documents. I lied. because I don't think I have one drive in the tenant. No pictures. I don't care about pictures. So, and those are my locations. So again, I'm gonna, because later this is gonna get stored in XML data. I'm gonna go ahead and capture all these XML locations. That's another array, and then I can say for each location in locations, just grab the XML data. We're going to say XML locations, add, we'll construct that location, I call this the real estate model, location, new line. Okay. And we could even write host. Write host, location will be backed up, do something like that. Okay, great. So that takes care of the paths we want. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the installed applications on the device. This is just good info to have for reporting, especially if you're in the process of building a new Intune tenant and you're doing this early on. This gives you a good feel over what apps people are using, you know. So let's go ahead and write host getting installed applications, or we could even be a little more specific, getting applications installed on the host name. There we go. And how do we do that? Well, this is pretty simple. We're going to make an apps variable, and we're going to put get package, where object, we're going to do two things, where the provider name is equal to programs, so that takes care of one set, or the provider name is equal to MSI. So that should cover us for all those scenarios. And then we're just going to take the name of the program out. Okay, we're going to make another array called all apps, an empty array. And we're going to pretty much do the same thing for each app. Oh, I didn't do the H. For each app in apps. All apps, and we're going to construct an XML line. Location, and we can do write host app is installed on host name. Great. That takes care of the apps. Okay, that was a lot of stuff. I think that's a good place to stop because we're able to get the framework of the script down, capture the important information, and integrate some of the new elements, like connecting to blob storage, creating the new GUID. What I want to do next time is go through the data migration piece, since that'll be a big chunk of what we're doing. And as always, if you're testing this yourself, feel free to jump into the Discord server. Let us know how you're doing. If you're having issues, it's a great place to troubleshoot and collaborate with others who are going through the same thing. We'll be seeing you.